These two articles are a response to a book that was published, which brought into question flood geology of the Grand Canyon. And they've been published recently by Andrew Snelling, who's the foremost geologist in the Answers in Genesis group, where he looks at these objections to the Grand Canyon being laid down by the flood. And in these two articles, he brings out 5 major points that are never properly addressed in the book. Or where they are addressed, they're not addressed properly. And I have done my own work on this book and have concluded that there are creation articles that refute every one of the objections put forward. But the 5 main arguments for the Grand Canyon and other rock layers being laid down by the flood are as follows. Firstly, these rock layers are found often across the whole continent, or almost the whole continent, and in some cases between continents. That can't be the product of a local flood. Secondly, what we find is that the animals are buried, sometimes mixed together, sea animals with land animals, in a way that is only consistent with a worldwide flood. Trillions of dead animals and dead plants buried in water-deposited rocks cannot happen to have been done via long, gradual processes, especially as recently as BBC found 1,000 dinosaurs all buried in one place. No, that's not going to happen except by a worldwide flood. Thirdly, we find that the layers of rock show no sign of erosion between the layers. What little signs of erosion we do see are easily accounted for by the flood model. But if you're talking about millions of years between the rock layers, there should be plenty of signs of erosion. Fourthly, the rocks themselves, when they are bend together, and there's no sign that those bended rocks were bent when they were dry. All the evidence, which Andrew Snelling has done quite a lot of work on, shows that when they were bent wet, and it must have all been wet at the same time, which means the rock layers were still damp from the flood. These are not rock layers millions of years apart. They would have been bent in a position of being dry and brittle, and you would have seen that in the bent rock layers. And so you see multiple lines of evidence clearly demonstrating that the Grand Canyon and other features around the world can only be reasonably answered by a worldwide flood. And those that refute it generally don't read the material that's been produced by the creation societies. Once they do, they don't read it with diligence and therefore can't comment with any great sort of authority. And therefore we can trust the work that's going on in the creation societies. And I see no evidence that there's anything to counter it being produced by those who believe in an old Earth. I'd love for the old Earth proponents to sit down with the young Earth proponents and thrash these things out in a respectful manner that would allow both sides to bring their strongest arguments to bear, but listen to each other. But sadly, that does not happen. Well, thank you for listening.